So as you guys might know by now, I've spent the last 30 years of my career in and around movie studios. I've been a screenwriter, I've been a studio executive, I've been a producer, I've been an executive producer, I've been a story analyst. Because of that background, writers ask me a lot, what really happens when my agent or my producer submits my script to the studio? The answer is complicated and maybe even a little bit scary, but I'm going to try to shed a little bit of light on it today. So let's get to it. So the first thing that happens is that your agent's going to send out your script, they're going to start calling studio executives, and they're going to try to get people really excited about it. They're a good agent, they're going to pitch it like it's the next big thing, they're going to get people riled up, and studio execs are going to read it. And they're going to read it because everybody is always looking for the next great piece of material. The executive agrees to read the script goes into the studio, but they don't read it. Not yet. Because the first thing that they do is they send it to the story department to get coverage. And you'll hear me talk a lot about story analysts and what story analysts do. And I can do an entire, pod or something on what that is. But for now, I just want you to know that there's three major things you need to know. They're going to do one of three things: give it a pass, a consider, or a recommend. And those recommendations are going to largely determine the fate of your script. So obviously, the thing you don't want is a pass. And by the way, both the script and the writer are going to get rated. So you can get a double pass on your script, pass on the script and pass on the writer. That's probably the end of you at the studio at that point, right? Your script's done. If you get a double pass, it's going to be really difficult to get some play. It's going to be difficult to even get the executive to read it. On the other far end of the spectrum is the double recommend, right? Recommend script, recommend writer. That is an exceptionally rare thing. I've seen that maybe, 10 times in my career. And it basically is a story analyst saying to an executive, drop everything you're doing, read this script right now. This is a movie that this studio should make. So what typically happens more often than not is your script gets some level of, maybe it's consider, sometimes I'll do it like a consider with reservation, something like that. But what you hope is that it's enough to get the studio executive to read the script. And if you get a double consider, by the way, that's awesome. That's better than 90% of the scripts that are out there. So in any case, let's say for the sake of this argument that you get that double consider. Well, if you get that, now the executive's going to read it, right? Anytime I saw that on script, I was going to read the script. I would give it at least 30 pages to see if it was any good, to see if I agreed with the reader or not. If I agreed, I would keep reading. I'd read the whole script. But if I disagreed, that's probably it, right? You're probably done. So that's the next inflection point, is you've got to get the story analyst to read it and like it, and you got to get the executive to read it and like it. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that this executive doesn't pass, that they really like it. So what happens now? Well, now it's time to get some reads from some other executives who work at the studio. And that's typically going to happen at a meeting. We used to call it weekend read. You would meet on a Friday, everybody would talk about the scripts they were reading, and you would try to get some other executives to read the script, to weigh in on it. As an executive, you're trying to build some kind of consensus over whether this script is good, whether it's something we might make at the studio or not. So everybody goes home for the weekend, they come back on Monday, and now it's time for everybody to weigh in and say what they think of the script. Okay, so next inflection point. More than likely at this point, again, you're going to get a pass. And the pass might be for reasons that have nothing to do with your script, right? Sometimes it's as simple as there's a competing project in another studio that the executive didn't know about. Or sometimes it just doesn't fit the mandate, right? Studios have mandates of what they're looking for at any given moment. For example, maybe you wrote a great romantic comedy, but they're really heavy on romantic comedies right now, and they're looking for a really good thriller. But let's just say, again, that maybe you thread this needle, right? Maybe your script gets a really great response. One or two executives read it, they really like it, they agree with you. Well, now we're on to the studio head, right? And this is where things get really interesting. If you've made it this far, by the way, if you've written a script that has gotten into the head of the studio, you have done exceptionally well, and good things will likely happen, right? At the very least, you're probably going to get in there for a meeting, meet with the executive who's going to want to hear exactly what you're working on next and what you want to do. Studio executive, studio head reads the script. They're probably going to pass. Again, why? Any number of reasons, right? Could be just not what they're looking for, not their cup of tea. Sometimes it's the development budget of the studio, right? Studios, like any other business, have a certain amount of money that they're going to spend on development every year. I've had scripts come in that were great. It was the end of the year, couldn't buy them, didn't have any money left for development. So sometimes it's just wrong script, wrong timing, or just not their thing. But If the studio head reads your script and they really like it, you, my friend, might be about to sell. You might be about to sell this script to this studio. How much are they going to buy it for? Don't know. Like any other market, it depends on what's happening around it. So if one studio wants it, the number might be quite low. If 2, 3, 4 studios want it, well, then you've got yourself a bidding war, and that's always a good thing. But more often than not, you probably didn't sell it. Is that a bad thing? Does it mean that you should go home and cry? No, especially not if you got that far, right? Because I always counsel writers that you're looking to do good work no matter what. Good things happen from good work, whether you sell your script or not, right? So what you might get out of that good script might be a bunch of meetings around town, and you might sit in a room with a producer who's got the next great idea that you're going to work on that could be a huge movie that launches your career. So the thing I would say is, obviously we all want to sell our scripts. We all want to make $1 million every time we sit down to write. That's typically not going to happen. But be conscious of the process of what happens behind the scenes so that you know how difficult it is to sell something and you don't get frustrated. Good work leads to good things. As always, keep writing.